Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening on this vast planet in which we live in. This is Ancient Mysteries Revisited, and I am your host, Rodney McGilvery, coming to you every Mondays and Wednesdays at 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on WELT 95.7 FM and streaming live at www.weltfm.com. Today we're doing Masonic and Metaphysical news starting out.
News section.
And then we will get right into our Theater After Midnight with our first two episodes.
Yes.
Which are, Chuck, what are our first two episodes?
Our first two episodes we will be dealing with is one is called The Home, H-O-M-E, and the other one is called South Wayne, Indiana Templars, which will be fascinating.
All right, so let's start today with
news.
The news portion.
All right, the big news is Masonic news. We'll do that first since that's going to be a little longer. Is our dear publisher, producer, head cheese, Rodney. Rodney, would you like to tell them what happened to you all day yesterday at the Shrine Building in Fort Wayne, Indiana, in America?
Yes, it'd be my pleasure to do so because it was a very, very important event in my life. And it was a long day altogether. Started out at 8 a.m.
Yes.
With coffee, donuts, and
typical
fellowship.
Mason breakfast.
Yes. And then once things settled down in the morning, the candidates, which this class was made up of about 50 people, we met in the back room. We got special collars put on to identify us amongst the rest of the brothers.
Yes. White collars. Yes.
And then we waited and waited.
That's part of it, yeah. And join and wait, yeah.
Usually, when it comes down to Masonic time, everything runs a little late.
Yes.
But this day went fairly quickly. We were actually ahead of schedule the whole entire time. So it started with the 5th degree, and went all the way up. We did 6 degrees altogether, ended with the 32nd.
That is a long day. Now, for people that don't understand that out here, your lodge, your blue lodge is number 1. Just remember that. That's your first lodge. And it's 1st, 2nd, and 3rd degrees, which they deal with the death and resurrection theme of Hiram Abiff. Now, those are in the books called Hiram Abiff books. You can buy them by 2 Englishmen. Here's the deal. Remember what Charles Campbell said. Myth becomes fact. And over thousands of years, the stories that Rodney experienced, they're small pageants. Some were actually acted out now, and guys are hard to get a hold of, so it's getting harder to do this. Some of them are on film that he experienced. So they do this small pageant or play, then they rest and talk about it, and then they do the next one. Well, imagine doing 5 and 6 of these, which I went through 2 years ago, in one day. It takes a lot out of a guy. So go ahead, Rodney, you're up.
Well, it's a fascinating time. There was a couple that were portrayed on video. So we watched it like on a movie, which it felt like they should have provided some popcorn or something.
Yes, I'm with you.
It was interesting, but the exciting stuff came when things started to be acted out. Most of the degrees were acted out live.
All right.
Everybody is in costume.
Yes.
And it was played out like a very professional, high-quality play.
Yes.
It was very, very well done. I mean, this was like very high-quality. Could have been Hollywood quality.
There's a gentleman called Father Tom. That's a Scottish Rite 32nd degree Episcopalian priest that I know quite well. And I'll put a shout out here to Father Tom. He does a lot of work on this. He scurries around and gets men that he knows can play these parts. And see, Rodney now, he can play one of these parts if he decides he wants to. That's the part of the Masonic Scottish Rite ritual. Go ahead, Rodney.
But in general, the whole entire series of degrees showed you different aspects of morality, different lessons to be learned, how important your obligation is and how important it is to keep your obligation. And it went on to just tell you to rise above temptation and continue what's in your heart. pretty much.
That's very good, the way Rodney put it. The other thing that most people don't understand, and I assume this too, once you get to the Scottish Rite, which is 4th degree, you think it's going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, up to 32. It is not. They pick out certain degrees to do in certain states, ending with 32. And you say, why do they do that? Well, it's an old ritual way of doing it. Then you get a little book called the passport, and it looks just like a normal passport book. They stamp it, they date it. Then the degrees you don't have, which is easier now to do when we have computer in the world, you look around the United States or even Europe if you have the money, and when the other degrees will be done during the year at other valleys. These are called valleys. So it's the Fort Wayne Scottish Rite Valley. There's 5 in Indiana. We'll talk about that later. One was just initiated last year in southern Indiana, number 5. You take your book, you stamp it. Now you say, so what? Well, after you get all 32 done, you then are issued what's called a golden passport. So guys like this sort of stuff. Anyway, you know that. You get medallions, you get a golden passport. It's a thing men like. And then when you lay it down to show your brothers, it shows you've arrived. You've done all your Scottish Rite work. Go ahead, Rodney.
And the biggest perk of being a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason is you could take your passport or just go down to your local Speedway gas station, get a large coffee, and tell them at the front counter, oh, I'm a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason.
Yep.
And they'll give you a copy for $1.99.
I love that.
But the copy itself is $1.
Yeah. Yeah, that and a couple of bucks will buy you the old saying that goes, right. The other thing to remember with this is that these, like Rodney said, are morality plays. Now, if you're doing this in the 17 or 1800s, you did not have TV. You did not have radio. It was huge. Now, once upon a time, stronger than it is now, the Episcopalian Church in the United States and Europe, the Anglican, was connected with the Masonic orders because the Roman Catholic Church wasn't in the day. So like on St. John's Day coming up next year, they would have initiations done in the church basement. It's written in the history of the Fort Wayne Episcopalian Church. They just have a brand new historical, beautiful book. I read it in the 1890s. Then they would have some events all day Saturday, and for Sunday church service, all the new Scottish Rite Masons would sit there up front, and they would have them read out of the Gospel and the Epistle, and then to start with, a full-fledged drum and fife corps band would come in and start everything, then go to the sides. So it was a humongous event. Do they do some of this today? Yes, sans the drum and fife corps, which I'm sad to say that they stopped a few years back.
They're losing the pomp and circumstance of the whole ritual.
Yes.
Now everything is just quickly produced, which to me loses the quality of the whole concept of it.
Yes, it does. And then afterwards,
I foresee everything eventually being on DVD.
Oh, it's coming. You're right. Now, here's the big thing with that people don't realize. We're getting into 4th and 5th dimensional television and computer. What does that mean? Well, you've seen in science fiction movies where these objects are created that you can walk around and talk to. Mm-hmm. All the rituals will be done that way, so you will be able, almost like with Alexis on the computer, to interact with the ritual while it's going on. Now, that will be fabulous.
Yeah, that'll be a step beyond anything we're doing right now.
Well, about right now, it's just flat screen. It's just flat screen. So, again, this is going to be very interesting. But those are a few side points. I want Rodney.
Well, the reasoning, I think, for why they're putting everything on DVD is because the cost of making these costumes is insane.
Yes, and a lot of the towns and cities don't have as many people as we do. So the men are not there to do the rituals anymore. Now, I don't want to take away from Rodney's big days, so we'll let him continue, and I'll interject just a little bit every so often. But go ahead. So you want to talk a little bit about the meals and that too?
Well, after going through the degree work, which is all morality based, you got step by steps building up on different storylines of morality, and camaraderie and companionship with your fellow brothers. After viewing all those degrees, then there was a big class picture taken to
Right.
memorialize the event,
Yes.
as well as various things I'm not going to really get into. But
Right.
it
And
was a big event.
and Rodney's going to get a copy of that,
Yeah.
and we can put it in a frame and hang it on the wall.
Which
it's his
that'd
class.
be very nice. Yes.
It's his, and that little bitty head in the corner will be Rodney.
Which my class was about 50 people.
That's a lot
And
of people.
one of the 33rd degree members came in, poked his head in the back room, the
Oh.
waiting room, and he said his class at the time, back in the 70s, I think he said it was 200 people.
Oh my God, I never heard that one.
Yeah.
Wow. That would take almost a full day. Easy.
Yeah, that'd be insane.
Okay. Yeah,
Like
yeah, okay.
organizing that many people.
Wow. Go
And,
ahead. Now, and the joke is, I think mine at the time was only 10 or 15. So you had a large class.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So
go ahead.
It was nice, and then afterwards we had more fellowship. They opened up the bar. There's a very nice bar over here in the shrine, the local shrine. And then the wives got to join us a little bit later, and there was a giant banquet.
That's
full
lovely.
of very nice food, including steak or salmon or chicken, I think were the choices.
And vegetables for the
And you got your
vegetarians.
vegetables, and all on very nice china plateware.
See?
And catered by the shrine, and it was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
very nice banquet, and
That's lovely.
the
That is
wives
lovely.
got to come in and
Yes. See
see
what's-
inside,
Yes.
get an inside view on what their husbands are doing, and very enjoyable. My wife got to go, and she had
Yeah.
a good time, and
Yeah, that's lovely because there are different events in the Blue Lodge, Scottish Rite, Templars that are called more or less family days or days you can bring outsiders in, even children sometimes. And the guys will watch sports, maybe have a beer, the wives will talk to each other, there will be food served, and sometimes it's a buffet, sometimes the people bring the food themselves. But it's not to leave the family out, because part of the Masonic ritual is you honor your country. This is what people don't realize. We are to honor the country we're in at the time. We're to honor our government, our job, and our family. They come first. If something comes up in those events, we cannot attend a lodge meeting, then we should not attend the lodge meeting. Go ahead, you're up.
yeah, I was told, like, if I had something come up with the family, like something with the kids, like an event or something, definitely do that before you do a lodge meeting.
Yes.
The family comes before the lodge meeting.
That's right, anything.
And it's a very family-oriented organization.
It is.
I mean,
People don't think that, but it is.
the prayers that were being said at the banquet last night
Yeah.
were very family-oriented, and a blessing put upon each member's family and everything.
That
It
is
was
wonderful.
Really nice, yeah.
So Rodney was telling me 4 or 5 days ago, after he gets done, I'll let this slip out a little bit. Rodney has some alchemy equipment. Now, I trained 20 years ago in it, so he said, Chuck, after we're done, I come home, we'll put it out, and we'll start working with it in what's called sporadgics or plant alchemy, not mineral alchemy. So I laughed to myself. I thought, he's going to be shot all to heck, because it takes a lot out of you. I mean, you going through that, it doesn't seem like much, but it does.
Yeah,
So go ahead.
It ended, I think it ended at like close to 7 o'clock at night last
Right,
night.
and you were there since
I was
7
there
in the morning.
Yeah.
So that's a 12-hour day.
And
No.
I was in a really good mood afterwards. I was excited. I was in a celebratory mood.
And
So
tell him
me
what
and my-
happened. You met some people.
Yeah, well, me and my wife went out and had a drink afterwards, and my friend, and we went to this Irish pub downtown, and my friend ended up being at the same pub at the same time, and he just recently moved into a new house, so he afterwards showed me and my wife his new house.
Wonderful.
Big celebration
That's-
last night, and just a great
Yeah.
evening overall.
I called him this morning. He didn't answer the phone, and finally about 11:30 he goes, Chuck, are you coming over today to do the program? I said, I got fabulous news. And part of it is this Mason and Metaphysical news section will be a major part of Nexus Productions and Theater After Midnight. So this is our first coming out party with Rodney, and we will do some interviews later on more and more, but it'll be news about what's happened, what is happening, and what's going to happen with the Masons. Now, we're not officially connected to any lodge doing this. The York Rite, the Scottish Rite, or what I'm connected with, called the Research Lodges, which I will get Rodney in later on. We're two Masonic brothers that met. We have the same interests. Rodney has this excellent radio program, and here we are. So you go on and finish up what happened to you, sir.
So yeah, well, that was pretty much the whole evening after the celebration of the banquet.
I bet you had quite a buzz on.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even alcohol either. No, it was a spiritual buzz.
Right, because I did have a couple drinks,
right.
So that was it. I was on a very spiritual high, and it was a great evening of celebration. I'm progressing very quickly in the ranks of Freemasonry.
And Scottish Rite.
And the Scottish Rite. And coming up at the end of February, I heard there's a big event with the York Rite, so I should be joining York Rite fairly soon, too.
So there's lots of interesting things going
on. One of my main goals, which is connected to what we've been talking about the last couple of shows, is digging deep into the Knights Templar.
Right.
That's been one of my biggest interests and fascinations in regards to history research, and that's what actually led me to even joining Freemasonry.
And the point is, we forgot to mention, Rodney and I are connected. I got a few notes here since we're doing history. With General Saul D. Bayless, who the Saul D. Bayless Lodge in Fort Wayne, Indiana, America, USA, is located in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And you say, and there's lots of lodges. Well, in the day, General Bayless from Fort Wayne, this is back when they had trains, he had to get around the whole state. So his secretary would go down to the train station and make train appointments for him. So he really traveled hard, but he was a general. And he started it. Anyway, down the road, Dave Thomas is a 33rd degree Mason, which is very high end, and he started Wendy's in Fort Wayne, Indiana. People say Columbus, Ohio. No. Dave was an orphan at the orphanage in Fort Wayne, Indiana, grew up here. At 15 or 16, he worked at, and I remember seeing him with my parents at the Hobby House in Fort Wayne, Indiana, downtown. They had a second one located on Crescent Avenue. That doesn't mean anything to people outside of Indiana listening, but it's a V straight. There's 5 streets that go in here. It V's out. And today, that building, that Hobby House was torn down, and a brand new Wendy's building sits on top of it. So there's where he met, in the old Hobby House, Colonel Sanders. Now, remember this. Colonel Sanders was 65 years old when he started KFC.
Was Dave Thomas a Freemason at that point?
I don't know. Okay. That'd be a good question to ask. But he was a young man starting out. So Colonel Sanders would bring in... I saw him do it. I didn't know who he was. This was this old white-haired man. I drove by. He had 2 giant pots, tall, and he would bring them in and say to the company, I will cook you free chicken with my special herbs ingredients. Talk about alchemy.
Right.
And if you like it, then you'll buy my recipes. And from there, it turned into Colonel Sanders' own businesses, KFC. Well,
so 2 international companies
right out
here in Fort Wayne.
Yes,
which
and
is unheard of.
And Dave Thomas worked with the Colonel for a long time. Now, when he did this, he had in the back of his mind, there's been interviews on TV here locally, and I have the news reports in the paper. He had these ideas how he wanted to have fresh burgers served with fresh Frosties, French fries, and salads and other things, which eventually he started. Now, a lot of people don't know, it is named after his daughter, Wendy, who was the redheaded kid you see today. Well, she's in her 40s or 50s. The business then eventually moved. He got married and moved to Columbus, Ohio, and started it big over there. And I've been over there. It's a very nice setup, but they don't know it eventually started. Nobody knows anymore. It started in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And there was one woman here at the old Crescent Avenue Wendy's, or the new one. that was a dead ringer for Wendy on the pictures. They didn't use her. I think that was a big mistake on their part to do PR work. She had the freckles, she had the ponytail, she looked just like Wendy. She was a very nice young girl. So anyway.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned he came from an orphanage.
Yes, in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
The Freemasons one of their big ideas is to support orphans and widows.
That's right. And it's huge. Yeah. It's in the ritual, which we can't go into here. But the ritual plays out. It's very strong. Now, it came from pre-cultures of even Masons. And when you joined these organizations, you took care of the widows, you took care of the orphanages. This is why a lot of the men joined in those days. Because if you died, the women and children had no support, period.
Which makes sense back in
hundreds of years ago.
Too, even like with war and everything.
Yes.
That's a good support plan.
And the Masons take care of their own. So eventually, Dave joined. He worked his way up. And if you go, this is to the brother Masons out there. If you go online to the Masonic page in Indiana, you will see the Masonic library down at Indianapolis, Indiana, in America. A table is set out with his picture, his apron, and his Masonic jewels, with a plaque. So they honor Dave with his own table and page in Indianapolis, Indiana. And it should be. Now, when you go into to finish with Wendy's, there is a little box that sits in front of where you pay. It says Dave's Orphans Kids. Please, brothers, please tell your friends, your family, and little kids, put in a dime, put in a quarter, put in $1. That is strictly regulated, and they take care of thousands and thousands of orphans a year through Dave Thomas Orphans Fund. On the wall, you will see in every restaurant Dave's picture. Say hi, Dave, if you're a Mason. You know the symbol, you know the handshake. I still think he's working on the other side. Now, Wendy's is international. It is all over the place. So I want the brothers, wherever they're at, to go in and buy a sandwich, buy a Frosty, and put some coins in that orphan's box, please. If you do, tell us on your webpage, our webpage here, take a picture and send it to us of where you went to what Wendy's, in what country, what state, and if you got your Mason ring on, hold that up.
That's a great idea. I like that.
So it'll work. So anyway, that's the story of Dave, and God bless him. Now, we're getting into some very, very interesting things. I'm going to take a little break here, and we're going to do some regular Masonic news. Okay, now, we have other organizations, and first we'll start with the Shriners. The Shriners is like a separate organization among the Masons. They take care of children and adults too.
And their biggest thing is philanthropy.
Yes.
Things like that.
So again, it's sort of like Dave, but I have their new magazine. I've been a member of it. And the important
that's one thing about last night real quick too.
Go ahead.
The guy in charge of the, I think he's the potentate of the shrine here in town. He popped his head in, did a little presentation about the Shriners here.
Oh, good.
And definitely seems like a great organization.
It is.
What they do is they help children. They got their own hospitals. And I come to find out they're the largest series of children's hospitals in the entire world.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the ones located around here are Chicago, Illinois, and over in Dayton or Columbus, Ohio. Now, the one in Chicago takes care of things that are disfigured on the child. See, they have vans parked outside of the shrine. So if you have no money and your doctor says they need this type of work, they send the medical report to Chicago or to Ohio, and the doctor okays it at that hospital. The people get in the van right here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. There is no charge for the medical work. There is, even if the kids have to stay there for surgery, and there is no charge on the van.
Well, here's a quick story about that van.
Go ahead.
This is what the potentate said too. That there was a lady, I think, up in South Bend or somewhere close by here, where her house burnt down, or I think it might have blew up. I think it was a propane explosion of some sort. She had all sorts of burns and everything, and she was taken to the Lutheran hospital. And he got a call out of nowhere because I guess the hospital doctor at the Lutheran Hospital
Yes.
was also one of the main doctors at the closest Shriner Hospital.
Oh.
So he gave this guy a call, and so the local potentate went over there, saw this woman there, and eventually they brought her to the Shriners Hospital, and like within a week, she was completely back to normal from all these burns and was able to go back home.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes, they just besides children, they also do treat adults. This is some of the things that to me is not advertised enough. So I want you, ladies and gentlemen, listening to this program, if you know of a person in this condition around the world, you can find out on the internet where the closest Shriners organization usually is. Contact them, ask them what they can do about this case. They will intervene, do an in study, and see if it's applicable to the facilities that they have. But around here, it's Ohio and Chicago, Illinois. Okay. So anyway, they had a dinner last month for the Scottish Rite drivers and the Shrine drivers at the Shrine, and they had their wives there, and they gave them a big dinner and a big thank you. The driving's free. The driving's free. So these guys, Rodney could donate his time now. I could donate my time if we had it available and become a Shrine or a Scottish Rite driver for these events. So they would call us up.
Not only taking people to the hospital, they also take children that are long time people that stay or kids that stay at the hospitals and take these children to fun events like circuses and also... Yeah, we got the Shrine Circus. Okay, now that's Rodney. That's a beautiful segue. Now, I don't know the exact dates. It's online. You can look all. Now, remember, I'm dyslexic. I'm just lucky to get this. For 3 days and 3 nights, I told Rodney, I've been up since midnight to 8 in the morning writing and doing things for this show, so I'm a little wasted. But we'll do the very best we can. And I got a buzz on because there are 2 huge events coming up I'm going to talk about. But a nice event. And let me tell you, I've been there. It's beautiful. It's okay. Is the Mizpah Shrine Circus. Now, they bring in kids that have no money or that can't get to a circus and pay it. And the families can go. So in Fort Wayne, Indiana, at the back of the shrine is the circus office. You can go online, you can call them, you can go. I've seen the little kids jump up and down and get tickets. This is where the event that I went to last night was located, and in the waiting room of the candidates, right across the hall was a door with a big sign saying clowns. So that's where the clowns go to get dressed up.
And they, and I'll talk about in a minute, but the Shrine and the Scottish Rite has clubs, what they call them, special clubs. One of them is the Clown Club. So if I want to know how to be a clown locally, I can join it. They'll teach me how to put on makeup, how to wear the funny shoes and hat. And I can even learn magic, which I find fascinating. Go to the hospitals, go to the nursing homes, and entertain people that are either in pain, suffering, don't even remember who they are anymore.
It reminds me of that movie, Patch Adams.
Yes, and make them happy.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a good doctor. He's a great. So anyway, the circus is coming up, ladies and gentlemen, in 2020 in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I've got the general brochure here. So if you're from the Midwest, you can call the Shrine, go online. They've got the Shrine Circus number, and get your tickets for the circus. Now, here's one story I've heard. Steuben County, Indiana, on an average, has 6 to 7 school bus loads of kids come in like on Friday or Saturday for that, driven by state police cars in the front and back. And they said, if you want to see that show coming down, and now the kids have got a tremendous buzz on, and they take him in, and there are Shriners there with their red jackets. I got my fez hat, they call it, F-E-Z, the little round hat with the knob on the top. And they will guide you and tell you where the bathrooms are, where the kids can get something to eat, and they'll keep an eye on the kids during the show. Because the kids are on steroids at this time. They're not going to sit still for an hour, you know that. Then there's cotton candy, and there's other goodies that the kids will be given. Now, you can go privately, like I did, or you can go through the Shrine or the Scottish Rite organization. So they are starting to push tickets now.
Okay.
So like I said, you can go out there and get tickets to that. Now, to make it real short, and I want to stay out of the political ambience of this, they do not hurt the animals. They take care of the animals. I've patted the elephants. I've watched where they do. And before it, sometimes, I think they do in Fort Wayne,
right,
you can take rides on the animals to show that they are real. They're not toys. They are taken care of. So a couple years ago, one of the big circuses disbanded in the United States, and they said that was the end of the circuses. It is not. They have other famous circuses out there taking that circus's place, still going throughout. And there was a famous movie made about the Beatty Circus or whatever it was with the famous actor Charlton Heston about 25 years ago. Go online, you want to see a nice thing, how the circus people, like the Masons, depend on each other, live together, whether you're a clown, whether you're an acrobat, whether you take care of the elephants or the other animals.
Because they're a bunch of travelers too.
Oh, they are. And the Masons, what he's referring to is we're called a traveler. So if I'm in a restaurant, a man comes up, puts his hand on my shoulder and says, "Are you a traveling man?" That means he's a Mason. You shake his hand, you say, "Yes, sir," and he'll probably go on. Outside of your ring or your tie tack, and you can buy baseball caps with the Masonic symbol on them. They're like $5, $8 and wear them. They learn by your stance how you treat other people, and they suspect you're a Mason. Because there are rituals we have to learn and go through, and we will be challenged on them by our older brothers. Now, the joke is, I'm one of the older brothers now. Rodney is one of the younger brothers. To say, "Brother, you shouldn't talk like that, you shouldn't say that, or you shouldn't do this." Now, it's done in a nice, complimentary way. We don't put each other down. Well, anyway, getting back to the news. Now, upcoming with the shrine will be the Children's Christmas Party. If you're a Shriner or a Mason, and like I said, I don't know all the rules on it, but you can contact the Mizpah Shrine Center. It will be December the 7th, 9 a.m. to 12 noon p.m. at the Shrine Center in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Anyway, there will be games, fun by Tiny Toons. Photos will be taken with Santa. You can meet a Great Dane dogs and their people that run them. Now, along with this you can buy is a cookbook. Every year for about $15, they put a cookbook on sale for the Mizpah Shrine. So the women do different projects along with the men's, and then they have what's called a Shrine Kids Camp every year, and you can take a look at that. This is called Lady Catherine's 2019 Mizpah Shrine Cookbooks. So the gentleman that runs the organization, the wife and the women usually have a project. You can call it the potentate, whatever. Now, along with this, here's some of the other organizational things that they do, and we'll just go through and list them very quickly. They have what's called the Mizpah Car Club. You can take your older car and join the Mizpah Shrine Car Club. They have the Mizpah Vets, the Veterans of Wars. You can join that organization. So there are various organizations. They also have, if I've got it right, there's tons of stuff you can join. They have a bagpipe group. In fact, they have a number of bagpipe groups. So there are those organizations. They also have a gun club. If you're a hunter, if you're interested in guns, you can join that. Then at each of these events, they will sponsor. The public is permitted to come in and participate according to what the organization is going to be. So anyway, keep in mind and look out for the Mizpah Shrine Circus coming to Fort Wayne, Indiana, or wherever you're at in the United States. Now, the other section on the Scottish Rite, by the way, I was reading out of the Mizpah Shrine news magazine. There is also a Scottish Rite private magazine, which I picked up a couple of copies. I will give this to Rodney afterwards. And he will be now on the mail list. And there's all sorts of nice articles, what they're going to do, how they're going to do it. And there's the United States meeting of Scottish Rite every year. And there's big articles in here and all the different things that they do. In fact, once you get higher up, Rodney will have to get a tuxedo. So,
yes, which I need to get
yeah,
very soon.
And the joke is, I bought one. I'm not telling the brothers, though they're listening. Mm-hmm. My friend said, you need a tuxedo, don't you? I said, probably. I'm thinking of Salty Bayless Lodge, because a lot of the boys in there wear tuxedos.
Right.
And
well, I guess technically a tuxedo is needed during officer work.
There you go.
During the Master Mason degree.
And I could see that. So anyway, he said, there's this store that's a high-end used retail store in Fort Wayne, located out by me. He said, Chuck, I thought I saw a tuxedo in there. So I went in, tried it on. It's right out of the 1930s. It's double-breasted. It's beautiful, and it fits. So you don't see double-breasted tuxedos
Not
too
at
much.
all. I might go in there tomorrow.
Yeah, and they've got, I mean, what happens is they belong to this high-end church in Fort Wayne, and when the people die, they got silverware. They got china. I saw a teapot set. I have a friend from Poland. This was made in Poland. Okay. And it was only like $40, $50. It was 6-piece. And I've told him about it. So anyway, they got very, very high-end used clothing. So Eddie Rodney, here's your first issue of the Scottish Rite Journal.
Thank you.
That's for you. All right. Now, moving on, we're going to mention this one project, and we're really going to hype it because it needs to be done. All right. Every year in each state, the Scottish Rite gets together. Now, in Indiana, we have what's called valleys. They're not called lodges. We're in the Indiana Fort Wayne Valley. So this year, in 2020, coming up, the stated meeting will be held in Evansville, Indiana, at the southern part of the state of Indiana. It's a lovely city. I've been there, and the guys will do a good job. God bless them, one and all. And it will be on the Mason page.
Yeah, well, let's real quick, since you spoke of the valley.
Yes.
Give a definition of the valley and the structure of the valleys here in America, because there's only a couple of them, I think.
It's each state has so many, but what it basically is I personally think, and you can get into debates about this, George Washington kept his troops in the valley of, I'm trying to think of the place now because my mind's off of it, Valley Forge.
Yes, Valley Forge.
I think that's where part of this comes from, that he had to stay there. It was horrible for the troops. So the naming of different organizations in the Masons, I thought they were going to call it a lodge. In Scottish Rite, it's called valleys. So we have 5 valleys in Indiana. If you're a Mason, you can look them up on the Scottish Rite webpage, and you'll be allowed to do that now.
And then the valleys then encompass a northern valley and a southern valley as a whole in America.
Yes, yes.
Because I think our valley, the home of our valley, is up in Massachusetts, isn't it?
Lexington, Massachusetts is, yes, that is the, okay.
And then you have a southern jurisdiction.
Which is Washington, D.C. People don't realize that, and that is a beautiful, beautiful place. And they say, well, all the Scottish Rite come out of Washington. No, the northern United States is Lexington, Massachusetts. And I'm trying to think and talk fast at the same time. This is why I used to stutter a lot till a chiropractor helped me with that. When I was in a blind chiropractor, and out of 6 sessions. So if you have issues with your health or anything, we'll talk about holistic subjects. I highly recommend a good chiropractor to help an adult or child. But anyway, getting back on this, his name was McNaughton. I forget the gentleman's first name. He lived up there 15, 16 years. He's from Fort Wayne, Indiana. The current secretary of the Scottish Rite is his son. And he's a very nice, extremely man. Helps me with my dyslexia, trying to get things lined up. Now, each area in the United States can have a dyslexic program. Fort Wayne does not. Indianapolis does. But if you have a child that's...
children's
and program. You can take them in there. Now, I'm 74 years old. I'm self-taught on a lot of things. I received a lot of abuse as a child and adult. being put down and laughed at. A lot of that is going away. I still talk to people, they don't know what dyslexia is today, which you mix up your letters and your numbers and dates and where you drive. The other big one that I know about is in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. They have a huge dyslexia center there. I would like to go there. I could have gone 2 weeks ago, but I had another appointment. They have a big dinner next year. I want to get up there. I've been up there, and I had joined that Scottish Rite Valley in Wisconsin. Very, very nice people. So anyway, dyslexia is one of the treatments that you can work with. Now, to make a long story short, you don't cure dyslexia. You teach the child or an adult how to work with it. Mistakes are still going to be made, but some of the kids have grown up. They become professors, they become surgeons, they become engineers. I didn't have that choice as a child, and it causes me continuous trouble today. Now, here's what some people will say. We can fix you. Now, I'm going to get back to Rodney and alchemy in a minute. And I said, you're not touching me, because what I found out is a lot of the esoteric material in the Masons, in the York and Templar Rite, and in alchemy is printed backwards.
Oh,
now it gets interesting, because they did that in the day and in code to save themselves by being burned at the stake by the church.
yes.
I received some of this material one time. I'm reading it, and some guy says, I don't understand it. And I said, it's very simple. And I read it to him. He goes, how do you know that? I said, well, it states it right there. Now, yes, some of it's...
Well, that's a good point, too, I'm going to make real
Go
quick.
ahead, jump in.
One of the main reasons why everything is hidden, symbolic, and misleading is due to the fact that in ancient times, this kind of thing, especially in medieval times, was considered against the church.
Evil. It
Evil.
was Satan.
And
yes.
so, which it was not. Everything
No,
was,
it's
especially with
natural.
alchemy, it was natural healing. Coming
Natural
up with
healing.
natural medicines.
Yeah.
But practitioners of alchemy, even Freemason, even in World War II Germany, Freemasons were killed.
Yes. And so in the old days, remember I said it looks like, not all of it, that the alchemy was brought from the Templars that fought in the Crusades and from other areas back to Europe. They studied it. It became the early science of Europe.
Right.
And in the 1700s, a lot of your famous scientists were alchemists. They also knew
alchemy
astrology.
Comes from it comes from Egypt. Al being the Egyptian prefix of the, and chemia meaning the black land, which Egypt was considered the black earth, and that's the word alchemy comes from that. And they came up with the black earth name due to a lot of people think it's due to the Nile and the black sediment that the Nile brought up, but some traditional alchemists think they used the term black earth to do with the Hermetic axiom of as above, so below.
Yes.
The black earth representing the blackness of the universe.
And later on, we will talk about what's called the Emerald Green Tablet,
Yes,
which
and
is
that's
13 laws.
The Hermetic tablet
Yes.
is where all of this came from.
Yes, and
they say Alexandria the Great's the one who originally came across the Emerald tablet.
Yes, found it. Actually found it. Now, to make a long story short, I had a weird dream when I was about 20 years old. I was going down inside a mountain on a donkey with a monk's robe on.
Mm-hmm.
When I got down, 2 men took me off the donkey, laid me on the floor, which was an emerald green floor that glowed, separated my legs, and they laid a woman across from me, spread out, with another, it would be on a diagonal, and we were about 3 feet apart. The energy came from our genitals between our legs, formed and raised up into a white crystal globe. Now, I did not know about alchemy, I did not know about the Masons, and Jung psychology, and I kept it to myself till I started, and mythology with Campbell, and I started studying symbolism, and there it was. So it's considered a sacred dream for me. Was I ever an alchemist? Was I ever a monk? Probably.
I will say this real quick too in regards to last night.
Yeah.
I'm not going to disclose any secrets, but there was an alchemist portrayed in one of the degrees last night.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
See? And basically...
And he was a Freemason.
Wow.
He was called an alchemist, and he was also a Freemason.
And the point is what we're trying to make here. This is 3 points. It's called transformation, transubstantiation, and transcommunication. So I go back to my basic premise. When the priest is standing at the altar, which I saw again Saturday night at church, remember I said St. Charles Borromeo in church has the only, I call it, alchemy crucifix in the world. If you make it to Fort Wayne, don't go out and ask a lot of stupid questions. Just go to the church, and in the back. The church burned 25 years ago, and this is the altar cross that's left and charred. So I call it the alchemy
it's
cross.
Still there, and
it's still there.
Has the visual charred.
Yeah.
So it's a black cross.
It's a black crucifix,
okay.
And it is beautiful. Now the people out there don't have a clue. They don't. It's under glass, by the way, but as soon as you come in the back, you see it. So anyway, I say a prayer to it, and my parents had their 25th anniversary in the old church. It's now part of the office in grade school. But this is, now get this is a big new church in the round. The Knights Templars churches are all in the round. So let me think about this. This is all subconscious.
It is.
And it's conjecture on my part. But I'm sitting there watching a black priest give mass who was from India. And there in the back is the black charred alchemy cross. I thought, how lucky do I get to be in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and USA?
Perfect time.
You're not going to go. Now, the other part of this we're talking about black, remember I have at home, is called the Black Madonna of Poland. She is the dark side of Mother Mary, which is fecundity and fertility. Doesn't mean dark and evil. It means that which is not spoken about out loud. Even though Mary was from the east herself, right. She wasn't white.
It's the Gnostic Mary.
It's the Gnostic. That's very good. And there's one in Poland. There's one in Paris where the big church just burned down, Notre Dame. And it's in the basement. Now, I want to know if that survived. I have a picture. In fact, Father Tom was over there about 2 or 3 years ago. He took the picture and made me a copy, God bless him, of the Black Madonna. So he got to see the parish church before it burned.
We need to speak with Father Tom.
We do.
Sometime.
Oh, the people would love him.
Yeah.
The people would love him on this. All right, moving along with that. So the point is with all of this, the transmutation of the Mass is taking place with the bread and the wine. Now, some people believe it, some don't. It's up to you what you think your mental process. But I'm telling you this right now. What's done in the Catholic Church, and by the way, there's 5 or 6 of them. There's the Roman Catholic Church. There's the Liberal Catholic Church. There's the Modern Catholic Church. There's the Gnostic Catholic Church. Catholic means universal, period, end of story. So there's variations on the theme here. And in other religious organizations, the really ancient ones, they do the transubstantiation. Some do it with bread and wine. Some do it with fire. Some do it with water. But it takes place in an internal process within you. That's what I'm saying. Now, let's get on with the news on this. Okay, now, here comes a big one. This is big, 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 big. And I want everybody to start thinking seriously about this. In 2020, Evansville, Indiana, will hold the annual Scottish Rite State meeting. Now, that's nice. That is wonderful. That's really, really cool. 2021, here's the big one. It was told at the regular Scottish Rite meeting, which Rodney couldn't attend because he wasn't a member yet, a few days earlier, the 2021 year, remember this, ladies and gentlemen, will be in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And people go, so what does that mean? Well, we're not a big city. We're a very interesting city. So it's small, it's compact. So the brothers want to make an extra big deal, so we're going to hype it up here. If you've ever been thinking of coming to the United States, this is to the Masonic brothers, the York Rite brothers, the Scottish Rite, the Templars, or anybody else, and visiting a nice Midwestern America town, 2021 will be the time to do it. Now, I don't think it's up on the website yet. Maybe it is the
Now, are they
Masonic
holding
Brotherhood.
it at the shrine?
We don't know. I don't know.
I hope they hold it at the big temple down there.
Well, they could. But again, it's whatever the big boys want, you and
Right.
I'll have to follow. But here's the point. It's going to be held here. So you say, so what? Well, we're going to hype it here. Would you please, if you're interested at all, send us your name, your email, your lodge number. Now, we have an international airport. We have a private airport. Here's what's going on in Fort Wayne that's going to blow some people's mind. We had a factory called General Electric. You say, so what? It shut down. They're changing it into the Electric Works. They're going to have motels. They're going to have grocery stores. They're going to have a senior center. They're going to have 2 computer firms walk in, which will be young guys. And it's going to be a very classy setup. So by then it should be in the works. We are also getting, get this, 5 steam engines. Real, live, working. Somebody's going to donate them, I heard.
And
now,
right downtown.
Right downtown. See, Fort Wayne's a very small downtown. Go to the map, look at the Chamber of Commerce maps, and they can confirm all this. Now, right north of the river is the old Pennsylvania storage yards. Now, they will put the trains there because the beds are there to hold the engines. Mm-hmm. Across from it, on the other side of the river, close to the old fort that's been rebuilt, at some General Wayne's fort that was under the auspices of George Washington. Remember that. He was sent out here because he could be a little troublemaker at times. And George said, why don't you go out west and do some work for me?
And that's the site of the first Masonic Lodge in, is it Indiana or just Fort Wayne?
Fort Wayne.
Okay.
The first one, and this is something else if the Lodge brothers are interested, is on the Ohio River called Madison, Indiana. Now that's a show place of old Southern homes. They have events there every year. I will take Rodney down this year. I take a bus trip called American Heritage. Now, for those people here in the Midwest, American Heritage is online. I can take a bus trip in the Midwest and go to a historical event, $40, $50. Come on, you can't beat that for all day. They got bigger bus trips, but that's a side issue. So anyway, in Fort Wayne, Indiana, we have a beautiful botanical garden downtown. North of that, we have a zoo with lots of baby animals in it.
Well, that's connected to the railroad, too. I heard one of the steam engines is going to go directly from downtown to the zoo.
Yes, and we also have, I'm going to get the numbers mixed up, the 765. Now, she is huge. Been totally gutted and redone in a little town near here in the yards called New Haven, Indiana. She will be on display down there in the park by the river with a cover over her.
And that's another society Fort Wayne has. That's the, I don't know if they're calling it Fort Wayne. Maybe it's New Haven, but it's the Historical Railroad Society.
Yes, and already my dentist, I've told this, his father-in-law in Georgia is a history buff of train and is going to draw in trained people. Like, you're going to get to see these things run and work. On a side street to get the trains here called 4th Street, they're going to lay $1 million worth of track to get them from the main lines over to these historical sites. So in the future, say 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah, Fort Wayne's going to be completely
it's going to be changed from what Rodney and I know.
Fort Wayne is now going through an alchemical process.
Very good, it is, and we should use that in our ads.
Yes.
That's and most people won't get it, but you guys will out there because we've talked about it, and a lot of you people I know are interested in the alchemy process. Now, along with this process, they've hinted at, in the future, they want to bring back the trolley cars. When I was 5 years old in Fort Wayne, 1,000,000 years ago, I rode on the last trolley cars, which had tires on them, and they connected to wires up above. And we got rid of all that. They bounced along. Under the cement and bricks in Fort Wayne streets, those trolley lines are still there. I've seen them, and when they pave a street over, you can see those lines. So if they even begin to resurrect any of that, oh my God. The other thing we had in Fort Wayne and Indiana was huge, called the inner urbans. So you could, and it's like a big trolley car, self-serving just on its own. So you could start here in Fort Wayne and talk about Camp Chesterfield, the Metaphysical Spiritual Center 70 miles down the road, on a Friday or Saturday. Get on that, go down, stay over the weekend, get a reading, get a healing.
They had a trolley at back then?
Yes,
They went all
yeah.
the way to Chesterfield?
It took all day. And they also started milk runs because the farmers had to get their milk into town.
Okay.
So the inner urbans would take the milk at certain days, like early in the morning and late at night, and ship it into the producing centers.
Right.
That's what happened.
No, it's weird because Fort Wayne is taking a step back in time and bringing it back into the future.
Yes.
Which is
It's strictly metaphysical and alchemy. It's a transmutation that's taking place with reverence to the past, which people love. This is why the Masons work and the temples.
Fort Wayne's distilling itself and bringing back the pure original spirit of Fort Wayne.
It is. And like I said, folks, in 5 years, the locals like us are not going to recognize. If you get those GE buildings downtown, my dad worked there 50 years. I worked there a few years.
Didn't you say you had some idea that you want to bring, or a prospect of an idea you're going to bring forward to the people in charge of doing this, of having a museum up front?
Yes, a museum of General Electric. My dad had a lot of items. GE had their own baseball, their own basketball sports. He played all that. And he had some things from in the days when the factory made special items. And I'm going to toss them out unless I get a place. And General Electric are called the GE Works now. Whoever's organized that should take in from the members that are left a room, have it sorted, so that when people like me come in, or a stranger to the Electric Works, what I would like to do, ladies and gentlemen, do you know that in, I think it's Arizona, every year at some big city out there, they bring in all the new electric products. Now I want you to think of this: electric toothbrush to electric motorcycles to electric cars. Why not couldn't General Electric, called the Electric Works, be the first electric works city in the United States, directly connected to this convention, and they try out all their new gimmicks there in Fort Wayne, Indiana?
That's an excellent idea.
Yeah. Electric cars, electric bicycles. Come on.
I highly recommend you writing up a little business plan with that idea and
give it to the new mayor.
The new mayor.
Now, our new mayor, you're going to love this, ladies and gentlemen. This is his 4th time in service. You say, so what? Tom Henry is I don't care what side he's on. He's a very significant player in all these changes. And he worked by the way, we have our own baseball team. Now, is it a major league? No, it's a minor league. The stadium's brand new. It's beautiful.
But it brings in a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. And there's an apartment complex. You can rent an apartment over the stadium, get served food, and watch a ball game. Now, to me, and the Masons, by the way, have tickets to certain games, so the Masonic brothers take their family and go. That's another service. So anyway, we've got the Botanical Gardens. We've got baseball. We got a private airport. We got an international airport. We've got huge cathedrals. We're called the City of Churches. We have the largest mall in Indiana, believe it or not, called Glenbrook, right north of downtown. You can spend the whole day there. They have a merry-go-round for children in that mall. It used to be an ice skating rink. I loved it, but they took it out.
I remember those days.
Oh, those were nice. But anyway.
Fort Wayne, hopefully they bring back that vibe.
Oh, that would
end. Fort Wayne was in its prime.
They got a big bookstore there, a Little Professor bookstore. So anyway, whatever you want, if you would come for that Scottish Rite events in 2021, you would enjoy it because you got all these things. But call the Chamber of Commerce or go online.
But also, we're not far from Indianapolis.
Oh, if they want to go to Indianapolis,
so if we bring people from all over the world, if you come to this event, if you go down to Indianapolis, there is the Scottish Rite Cathedral.
Oh, that is gorgeous.
That's what I heard. And also,
I've been there.
Some say it's the 8th wonder of the world. That's how beautiful it is.
They have trees that were carved from all over the world sent in here. And one of my brothers, who I call Mr. Mason, I won't mention his name, but everybody in Indiana knows him. He has long silver hair and a ponytail. He will take you on a tour through there.
I heard they have 2 tours.
Yes.
They have a tour that lasts about an hour. Or you can really actually get a 6-hour tour there.
Wow. Yeah. And anyway, Mr. Mason, as I'll just leave him, and he'll get a chuckle if he hears this. He has his own huge webpage. Of course he does. He will take you on the tour. And he's very sincere, very honest. He belongs to lodges Rodney and I have no clue, this guy. And he loves to go up, he used to, in Chicago, dress in a full Templar outfit with the chainmail, the swords, get on the horsey, and they run around out there. Now, they have reenactments. I've seen them. But this was for the Masons.
Where do they do that at?
There is in Chicago a large covered arena.
Is that where medieval times?
Yes, yes. And that's what I'll be quiet about his name.
Okay.
This is what he wouldn't care, but anyway, he's got enough attention anyway. And he always sees me coming. Sometimes they used to call me the Hoosier Hick. Now, you say, what does that mean? It isn't slurly. The old comedian. Oh,
Red Skelton.
Thank you. Red Skelton was born in southern Indiana, one of his first characters. Now remember, he had a child that had leukemia and was prayed for her a lot, took her over to, not Medjugorje, I'm trying to think of the other, Lourdes, when he was younger, and she died. But the point is, he was heavy Roman Catholic, but he was still a brother Mason, 33rd degree. I have a copy of one of the old Masonic magazines like I gave you, from Indianapolis with his picture on it signed. Oh. Now back to, by the way,
that's a relic right there.
Oh, he painted beautiful clown pictures when he wasn't working. Beautiful.
Did he work with the Scottish Rite clown department?
I don't know. That would be something to find out. That would be
Yeah.
something to find out.
Because he did portray a clown.
Oh, he always.
Yeah.
But here's the kicker behind all of that. He was 33rd. He dealt with the child. He took the character, the Hoosier Hick, went out to California, and it became called Clem Cadiddlehopper. But it started right, so if somebody calls me a Hoosier Hick, I'm proud of that.
Reference to that, yeah.
I am proud of that. Now, we have 2 famous little movies talk about that, made about Indiana. One of them is on football, of course it's going to be sports, called Rudy. Okay. It was made 10, 15 years ago about this kid in Elkhart, didn't have a pot or to throw it out in. And he wanted to go to Notre Dame and be a player. Well, he's a tiny guy. But he worked his way up to getting into college at Notre Dame, which is no mean feat. They just don't allow anybody in there. And you can see the movie. It tells the story. It's very nice. I really enjoyed it. Anyway, and then he gets to play the last 30 seconds of a regular game because he was on the sub team. They used him as a battering ram to practice with. And the guys all came in, looked at the coach and said, we're not going to play. And they yelled, Rudy, Rudy. Anyway, I'm not a sports buff, but it's a well-done movie. The one I do like, trying to think of the name of it, is on Hoosier basketball.
It's just called Hoosiers.
Called Hoosiers. Now, the name quickly came, they say a long time ago, when you came up to a log cabin, who's there? That's where it's supposed to. But anyway, I love that movie because I know the 2 little towns that was actually filmed in Indiana, and the guy that Gene Hackman, that played the Lade. These are both character actor films. Nobody major, but Gene is. Played the coach that worked at, he was let down, this is his last job, and played this basketball with the kids, and the kids won. But the point is, he drove a 52 Chevy. I had one of those. That's why I like Gene does good acting. And it's a little film he picked up, and he did a good job. The other actors in there you will recognize. Well, moving on from that, those are the 2 films about Indiana. You can see them both online. Okay, so another place we can look at besides Indianapolis, if you're here for 2021, 8 miles northeast of here, for you big-time metaphysicians, is a place called Grable, Indiana. There is a shop there. It's a big 2-story old red farmhouse sitting right downtown by a parking lot called the Catalpa Tree Shops, run by a nice lady called Marge Coe. Now, I've known her for 31 years. She opened the shop up on my birthday, April 1st. And every year I go there and get a piece of birthday cake. I congratulate her. And she's been going strong. She has all the metaphysical books. She has beautiful stones and crystals. She has chimes. She has tons of classes. When her new brochure comes out for the Midwest people on classes, they teach tarot. They work with hypnosis. They do Reiki therapy. They have a meeting group. Now, for those that come through Indiana or northern Indiana, the first and third Wednesdays at 11:30 at 1 p.m. for 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever, is a meeting room upstairs. You can come in and sit in on the discussion group. It's open to everybody. Now, I just happen to be the oldest member there now, so somebody tries to say something and I'll go, don't screw with me. I've been here from the very beginning. Now, I don't make a big deal out of it, so some of them think they're bigger, better, and smarter than I am, which they might be. But I'm the oldest surviving living member there. Now, you got Amish, you got horse buggies, you got Amish buggies, you got lots of horses, you got a hardware store.
Well, a lot of people probably don't realize the Amish practice hardcore naturalistic medicines.
Yes. And in that bookstore,
to that
in Marge's bookstore, she sells all the alternative books and some oils. Now, here's something else. You want to stretch it a little further. An hour and a half north of that, look online and find this place. Here's for the hardcore people that are into alternative therapies. Is a place, this is metaphysical news, you can classify it as, called Shipshewana, Indiana. Sits out in the cornfields, is a tiny little place, but they have the Northern Nutritional Center. 8 to 10,000 herbs and vitamins in a giant pole barn, very nicely done. No advertising right off the main street. I took a friend up in there to look at some physical issues he have. I won't go into what Robert has. But the point is, I went up with him. It blew my mind. I'm into alternative therapies. Amish and ex-Amish run it. And there's Amish young man said hi. I go, hello. And I asked him for certain items. He said, it's right over here. They carry the very best brand called Terry, Terry, herbs and oils. There's the Cadillac and the Chevy brands. They carry both. I bought the Chevy brands. If it works, I will then buy the Cadillac. If you have a serious immune issue, if you need things, I'm not prescribing. I'm not saying doing it. I say I've been there. Across the street in the older building, which they started with a few years back, is 4 chiropractors that do the Palmer method. Now that's what I grew up with. They adjust the bones. They do not tap you. And I was there on a Thursday. It was an open day. So when we got done with my friend Robert, I went over next door. And she said, we could take you right now if you want to. It's only $30. I said, wow, that's a good price in this day and age. They have 100 chairs there. It's very clean, very nice. Now, you got to remember, you're in the cornfields of Indiana. Don't expect anything fancy. Don't expect with lots of lights, buzzers, and whistles. It's not there. Here's the fun thing. When you go into Shipshewana, a lot of ladies know this and some men, they have gigantic flea markets. And during the summer outside and in the fall, on I think Tuesdays and Wednesdays, you do not want to go near that city. There are thousands and thousands of people at the outdoor flea markets.
My mom loves going to those.
Oh yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Here's the big thing.
Real quick though.
You jump in.
Do they sell any spagyrics?
Yes.
Okay, they do. Okay.
But you have to ask for it. Now here's an example. I use a toothpaste. I'm not going to mention the brand name. It is the only, if you contact Rodney, he can tell you privately what the name of it is. They sell it at CVS. They sell it at Kroger's and other stores. I have teeth that are extremely sensitive. It is the only toothpaste that cuts the pain. I've tried 20 other. This is the only brand made in the United States, so you can look it up online, But you use it in your mouth, you hold it, you don't rinse it. The bad thing is people rinse out after they're brushing. That's up to them. You let it set up on your teeth, it hardens. 3 or 4 minutes, you spit it out, and then you do that 3 or 4 times a day. Take a little in and just hold it.
Okay.
It takes away the sensitivity. I told my dentist, I've told other people, if I could, I would buy this company. Whatever the guy did, he invented. Yes, they've got other shades of this toothpaste, but for really sensitive people with teeth, I can eat a lemon now. 2 years ago, I would have screamed bloody murder and said, don't bring a lemon near me.
So this toothpaste is helping build up the enamel on your teeth?
Yes, that's what it does. And under the gum lines.
Okay.
But I still have to brush because if I don't brush, it's going to hurt.
Right.
But anyway, so Shipshewana, and here's the big thing I love being a Brother Mason, they have beautiful buffet bars there. One is called, I think, the Blue Inn. So you walk in, and before Robert went to the doctor, or to the naturopath, they're naturopaths, NPs, there's 4 of them. They're trained in alternative therapies. We ate at the Blue Restaurant, I'll call it. Buffet bar to die for. On the left, and it's run by Amish women. They're all dressed up, they look very nice. On the left side is the Amish bakery. Cakes, pies, breads. You can go crazy and gain 50 pounds in a day there. On the right side, you're not going to believe this one, is an Amish theater. They do full musicals 4 times a year. That's another $30. So you could spend, let's see, with the restaurant 15, with that 30, and say buy some food, you can spend $50 to $60.
And
have a good day.
Yeah, you can even go to actual Amish houses there.
Yes, you can.
And they will cook you home cooked
And
meals.
you can, there's tours. You can sign up for it
You
in
need a
town.
horse and buggy tour.
Yeah, and I mean, it's fun. Now, as you make a right, as you get into town, it's a little ice cream cone place on the corner, and there's lots of outdoor furniture. Now, I'm saying this for people in other states or big cities who have no clue what this is. The locals go, why are you even saying that? And that homemade ice cream, the blueberry, and an Amish lady runs it, is to die for. It's a huge cone. So anyway, I enjoy that. So Robert bought that for me afterwards. And you see the horses, we said outside, clip, clop, clip, clop. Now, they got your regular horses, and some of the kids who we would buy a sports car, they buy a sports horse.
Okay.
So he puts his head up, he puts his feet out there, and he goes like a bat out of hell. Now, they're beautiful to watch run. Now, they have side lanes on the regular roads just for them. You say, so what? Connected west of that is a city called Elkhart, Indiana, which a lot of you folks out there buy your travel trailers from and your motor homes. And a lot of the Amish boys now do not have land to farm, so they're hired by the Elkhart firms, and there's one up by Shipshewana, to build motor homes and motor travel trailers.
Okay.
That's how they make money.
And there's a connection to travelers.
Yeah, there you go. But the point is, Shipshewana, if anybody here is really, really interested, I strongly suggest that you can go online, you can find out about it. But if you come here, it's another hour and a half. There's no major highway to it. You got to take a couple of back roads. You'll see online. You go into town. You can go in there without an appointment. But here's what you can do. If you've got an issue you want them to look at, you go online, you make your appointment. I suggest staying away from weekends if you can. They're booked past Christmas, he said.
Okay.
You go in, it only costs $5. He takes you in, he asks you your issues. They let you take a blood sample. They don't take it, see, medical.
Okay.
They look at it and discuss with you. They don't diagnose what they see in your blood. They offer you an alternative. You go out in the lobby. They give you a piece of paper. Now, you don't have to buy anything. You can walk. It's optional.
Okay.
They're not going to tell you have a major disease or not, because by the time you get there, you've tried everything else under the sun. I talked to a nice Mennonite man that's sitting there all dressed up. His wife's from southern Indiana. They come up. They got 2 huge motels there, by the way, so you can stay overnight or a couple of days, which I suggest. She goes in, gets her treatments, her pills, her oils, whatever. They eat, they have a good time in town, and then they leave.
Okay.
So if you're from out of state, do not try to do this in one day. But all I'm saying is this is an alternative. All right, moving along. So we have the potential for the 2021. I'm going to keep pushing this, ladies and gentlemen, because this is very, very important. Now, half the setup is not even laid out yet. I was told about this at a regular Scottish Rite meeting a week ago. But I know it's going to be very important for the Masons to try to get to 2021 in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and America, USA. Like I said, look, you got a nice, smaller town. It's not really little, but like I said, it's got churches. It's got a temple. It's got a mosque. It's got the botanical gardens downtown. It's going to have choo-choo trains. It's got an old fort. By the way, if everything goes right, Rodney, this coming spring or summer, will be made a deal with some rituals in the old fort. Now, he will either participate in them or take part in them, depending on what he needs. Now, you say, so what? The fort is rented by the Masons. We shut down the whole fort. And
I did attend that at 20 degree.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
You did?
there.
Okay. And he knows this. And we got a nice Masonic pin created by a gentleman in Fort Wayne. It is a gorgeous pin. But here's the deal.
Well, see, it's because it's
Go ahead.
put on by a lodge, which is it's within the downtown temple, which
Right.
our lodge is also in, called Wayne Lodge.
Yes.
Wayne Lodge was the original lodge
Ah.
in Fort Wayne.
Yes.
Which it was-
General Anthony Wayne.
Right, which was on the site of the old fort. So I think that's why they have access
Okay.
to shutting down the fort.
And we have lovely food. They had a great meal served with that. And we had people from 4 different states that came. What I think happened that really I watched is I ran into the fort, and there's bathrooms outside you can go to,
Right.
is a brand new Ford 4-door sedan sitting there with darkened windows, and the engine is running. Now, it was a hot day. And I thought, why would the brother leave the car running?
Right, because this is mid-ritual.
Yeah.
And the doors are locked. And
I think he might have brought his wife over thinking she could be in the fort.
like it was a public event.
Yes.
Or they had a waiting area. Or,
And that didn't happen. So 2 hours later, I come running out of there. The engine is still running. The windows are dark. And I could feel energy streaming out of that. Now, there's a nice place to walk around. Don't get me. It's by the river. And what I don't think she did know, she could have walked across the bridge.
To
And
the
there
Hamilton
is
Park,
Hall's Gas House
Oh, that
there.
too, yes.
And they have beautiful, beautiful food there. And
yeah, and connected to the gas house, they
Yes.
have the, I forget what it's called right now, but it's right by the river. It's like a nice little tiny bar right on the river.
Yes, and I was going to mention, I'm glad you brought it up. If people come here for 2021, Hall's Gas House is by the fort on the river. You can eat wonderful food there. They also have pontoon boat rides.
Yes.
We are also getting a huge new public park
And
on the
for
river.
the Masons out there that like to enjoy a little beverage here and there,
Yes.
they now have a bar boat. So you can
I didn't know that.
You can pay a little bit of money,
Right.
get on this boat, and it's an actual bar.
And it
boat.
goes an hour to 2 hours up and down the river. I mean, it's waiting to happen, ladies and gentlemen. And they're going to build 2 little nice hotels there. So it's all coming by 2/21. Some of this stuff should be up and the park's already in. So you can see that.
Perfect time for this event. Then.
Oh, it will. It will be. All right. So moving on with that and the barge. Okay. Now, we've covered Grable, Indiana. And don't forget, for those in northern or southern Indiana, Marge Coe's Catalpa Tree Shops. Go online. Find out about the courses. Spend a day there. They have 3 nice little restaurants. A nice little town I go to next to them, I mean a couple of miles apart, is Leo. Leo has a regular American family restaurant. If you want regular, they have a new seafood restaurant in Grable if you want something higher end. But you'll get to see the Amish buggies. Now, here's something right outside of town I ran into. There is a farmer that owns a large steer with huge horns. He also owns a bison for his little girl. Honest to God, I ran into this a couple of years ago.
Bison right outside Fort Wayne.
Right outside, yeah, but outside of Grable.
Oh, okay.
On a huge Amish farm, but they can find it. I mean, that bison's standing in the field looking at you with his steer. The point is, it got loose. I'm coming up over the hill in my 85 Mercury. It's coming right at me, and I said, this is it. I was going to dive under the dashboard. And it looked right at me, made a left into the farmyard with a little blonde girl. I'm not lying, chasing it with a stick. I couldn't, but it was like a big dog got away.
That sounds crazy.
And there's an Amish young kid standing beside me. I rolled down the window. He said, that's my sister. It's her pet.
Wow.
A large
she had a pet
bison, and it pushed through the fence, of course, and got free. But he knew he was in trouble. And she was, if I had a camera, this would have been gold. But I'm glad it didn't hit the car and killed me. That's what I was glad.
That kind of reminds me of a story about my other co-host, Bruce Cunningham, who just recently went home to the Philippines.
God bless Bruce. I hope he's listening to us.
Hello, Bruce. Hopefully you're doing well.
God bless him.
Bruce told me not too long ago that when he was younger, I think in his 20s here in Fort Wayne, he had a pet lion. And he showed me a picture of it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah, just like a lion just on his shoulder.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Wow. That is fabulous. So, if you get a chance to go to Grable, you're here in 2021 or sooner, you can tell Rodney and me online if you're coming to town. If you're coming through, a lot of people go to Chicago. They can stop off here if you're driving or, I had a girl meet me indirectly at the Botanical Gardens one night. By the way, first Thursday of the month after 5 o'clock, $1. $1 to get in the Botanical. I go there first Thursday every month. It's nice, 15, 20 minutes. There's very few people in there. Anyway, it's not a big botanical garden. Nothing is big in Fort Wayne. The beauty of it, it's compact.
Right.
You spend 15 minutes here, an hour there. Now, there is a huge new dance floor club across from, what's the Irish pub, JFK or JK?
J.K. O'Donnell's.
J.K. O'Donnell's, up above on about the 5th floor. There's parking underneath for the younger guys that want to dance all night, and the lights are flashing on and off when you and I come out of there after we spend time there. So there is a nice dance hall here. So like I said, you got a little bit of everything in a It's not like going to Chicago. It's not like going to New York and Detroit. But it's very, very nice, and there's cool things to see. But if you go online and look for these various items I talked through the Chamber of Commerce in Fort Wayne, and God bless our mayor, who did you say he's going to kill me?
Tom Henry.
Tom Henry is number 4. He's a sweet, sweet man. His wife owns a pub in Fort Wayne.
This is almost a Masonic city in general.
We got
downtown
tons.
And look at the big courthouse in the center of downtown. If you look on every side, there are carvings of a series of judges, and each one is doing a specific Masonic hand gesture.
See? Now, the kicker is, I'm glad Rodney brought that up. God bless this kid. He's very, very smart, which I like. The courthouse has just been redone on the inside. All of the paintings, the murals, they're absolutely gorgeous. You won't see other courthouses like this. Now, if you go in, just remember, I carry a lot of junk in my pockets. They will ask you to remove it. Leave it in the car, in the hotel room.
You can't even bring a cell phone in there.
No, or in your cell. I had to pay a ticket one time.
Right.
Down the way, and I didn't know it, and they made me empty my pockets to go in to pay a ticket. Why? Upstairs are the judges that do trials. It took me, ladies and gentlemen, 25 minutes
to empty your pockets.
With 3 young policemen standing there watching me. And I said, coming out, sir, do I have to? He says, no, just leave. You're fine. But I said, if the arresting officer had told me that earlier, he said, they knew it. I could have left it all in the car.
Yeah.
It'd be very simple. And at the airport, everybody knows this. I didn't the first time I did it. If you go to pick somebody up at the airport, you can't go in unless you leave all the stuff in your pockets. See, what they're looking for is guns or metallic items. Mm-hmm. And they found...
the security right now
Yeah.
at the airport is crazy.
And they found in the bottom of my pocket a little piece of aluminum from a gun wrapper. I'm a gum, G-U-M. And that's what held me up. I said, listen, I can't find it.
That could have been a bomb.
Yeah. You look in my pocket. And she stuck her hand in my pocket and found it. I couldn't find it. So anyway, what I'm saying by all this is when you come here, have fun. Have a great time. If you're on a holiday, there's things for children to do here too. So look around. Contact us if you're going to come in before these events.
Yeah, we'll give you a tour of the
downtown
if you're
Oh my God. And listen, north of here is called Spencerville, Indiana, about where Grable and Leo is. They have an old-time covered bridge, totally redone. But they also have the Spencerville Masonic Lodge there. And the guys are very, very nice. So I like to go to... Once a year, they hold a dinner on the bridge. I've been to the dinner.
Let me know when
it's
that
cool.
happens next.
I will.
Nice.
Alec would love it. Now, his wife is beautiful. She says 2 words less than the kitty does. And I have to say, Alex, are you okay? And she just smiles at me. But I'm an introvert too, but you wouldn't tell by this crap that you're hearing. Now, quickly moving on. Another group I want you people to pay attention to in the metaphysical news is called the Coptic Association. It is not the Coptic Church. It's out of Kalamazoo, Michigan, run by John Davis. They also have a website, but they teach Metaphysics 101. They have 3-year levels. I'm going to try to get Rodney into it. It's very simplistic. They believe heavily in alternative therapies, but they teach metaphysics. I've taught there for a number of years. But here's what happens. They have seminars all over the United States. So if I go back to being a teacher and sign up again, you can after your 2nd year. So after year 2 of 3 to 4 meetings at Kalamazoo, Michigan, he will be interviewed and they will ask him, do you want to teach? He'll say yes. You can be assigned to a seminar. And they're all over. The one I love the best is at Black Mountain, North Carolina. It's on the western northeast corner of 3 states. The little town is like Grable, Indiana, sitting in the mountains. So yes, they got McDonald's. They have Burger King. They have a Chinese restaurant. But they also have a big freaking university sitting right there. And up in the hills is 4 seminar centers, and I taught at 2 of them. It's very beautiful, very haunting up there. But anyway, the Coptics teach all over. Every year, I'm trying to think of the little town north here in Michigan. It's just 70 miles up the road on 69. Is a college like St. Francis University in Fort Wayne. They rent it for a weekend. And for like $150, you get your room and board. Yeah, it's a dorm room, but who cares? You get all your food. If you want a better place, there's a bed and breakfast there. But it's a dorm room. And they got classes all day long. Friday, Saturday, they leave on Sunday. So you get to see some pretty good metaphysical teachers, big timers. Now, of course, a lot of them are fading now. We're getting older. Mm-hmm. The younger ones are coming in. They're okay. I don't have a problem. But the Coptic Association of America, run by John Davis, who is a first-rate numerologist. He has 2 books out on it.
Now, is this associated with the Egyptian Coptics?
No.
Okay.
It's their own. But here's what happened. I'm glad you brought that up. A gentleman named Hamid Bey, who was a Coptic priest, he has a book called 5,000 Burials. It's a small book. I recommend everybody get it. 2 Coptic priests, this is in Egypt, came to the house, talked to the mother, talked to the kid, came back 3 months later, took him away out into the desert, and a door appeared out of nowhere, and they took him through the door to a private monastery. He came back out through that doorway of 21 years of age. He was an esoteric Coptic priest. Now,
so this is a door into a different realm.
Yes.
Okay.
And you just can't go find it. But here's the point. And he wrote about it. No big deal. Mm-hmm. He said, they asked him, what do you want to do? Do you want to run a church? do you want to help people? And he said, I want to teach. And they said, we've got an assignment for you. They sent him to America. He was married. He had a family. He did not open a Coptic church here. He opened a Coptic center. John Davis from Kalamazoo found him in his 30s, drove Corvette race cars, all this stuff, loved it. And he said, John, when I die, you're going to take over this organization. John left. He did. 5 years later, it's moved to Kalamazoo, Michigan from California, and John is ahead of it. I met him in Fort Wayne 30 years ago at the Unity Center when the new building was just put together.
Okay.
And they run around. Now I can have, and I'm going to work with John on it in the future, I will have a Coptic seminar in Fort Wayne. I will locate it. We will pick a date. But John's group will run it. He will bring in the Coptic. It'll be at a big motel around here. They'll rent some room.
Okay.
But it'll be Coptic in basis. And they'll talk Coptic philosophy. I highly recommend, if anybody out there listening can go to a Coptic seminar in the United States, please do. You're going to enjoy it. Now, if you're an old-timer like me, you're going to know a lot of this stuff. But for new kids like Rodney starting out, and even kids in high school, I highly recommend it. Now, I'm going to tell you a quick little story. I go to Wendy's all the time. I'm not going to tell you which one, but I met a very lovely girl there, a redhead, and I go, oh my God. And she's bouncy at Wendy's, and she's bouncing all over the place. I look at her, and I say, what are you doing right now? She says, I'm going to college at 17 or 18, Southmore, and majoring in psychology at St. Francis. I said, wow, that's great. So she said, I took college courses in high school. So she's a speed study student. I told her, and this is, I want you ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't do it, please do this in metaphysics. Take a Myers-Briggs test. Mm-hmm. Find out who you are. You can do it online. There's some cheap ones. Go get an Enneagram test. Now, an Enneagram is very basic, and don't think, just answer the question. A Jesuit wrote this book. I'm trying to think of his name. There's other Enneagram books out there. You want the one by the Jesuit priest. And he asked 10 questions. You read it real quick. There's 9 numbers. It has nothing to do with numerology. And you go, I'm this, I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that. I'm a number 5 called a sage, like Spock. Mm-hmm. Now, you talk to me and I'll say in relationship to what? That's one of the clues. If you watch Spock in the movies, they say he's an intellectual. No, he's an intuitive. He intellectualizes what he intuits. He's like me. So okay. I'm a Spock. I sit back with Rodney, other people. It's not I'm very, very smart. I just listen to what you say and how you say it. I might ask you a few questions and I'll say you're this and that. That's being called an intuitive or a medium. Okay.
Right. Plus, that's also, I mean, it's different the way you're saying. It's also a great way to communicate. You have to be a great listener to.
Yes, and again, you know, some of this basic stuff I'm talking about, Rodney, before they let you in the UN as an ambassador, if they would take you in the back room. Now, of course, those big shots would make their secretaries do this training.
Oh, yeah.
But take a Myers-Briggs, take an Enneagram, find out your astrology, Western astrology. Find out, and this is what I told the girl the other day. She knew half of this already at 18. I said, my God, you're ahead of the game. Get your Chinese astrology, put that on a piece of paper or the computer. So if I'm an American and I'm talking to you as the Russian, and if you're an introvert or extrovert, and I look at my computer, I already know how to address you. Mm-hmm. I know what your astrology sign is, what it means, and what your Myers-Briggs is. So like I said, I'm a 5. There are 3 sections to the Enneagram: head, heart, and gut. You know people that react from their gut. We know 2 Masonic brothers that do that already. They go grr, grr, grr. I work out of my head. You probably did too. You could be a 4 or 5 or a 6. So the point is, all these procedures are very ancient, very old. And we're letting them slide through today, especially in the West, saying it's superstition. It's Satanism. It's not Christian. These are thousands and thousands of years old.
I think one reason they killed off those philosophies, or trying to still kill them off, is to keep the society complacent.
And it does.
It's easier to control the society if everyone is believing the same thing.
Yes. We got about 10, 15 minutes left. Part of the last section. And I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't get to our book reports or the cool news stories. I wrote 4 cool news stories on Templars, what I call South Wayne, Indiana, on the Archons and an angel that comes down to interfere with a character that's a Knight Templar. She falls in love with him, becomes human, has a baby, he passes out and faints. Gee, does that sound like the Annunciation and the Virgin Birth theme? It could be, but I've dressed it up and put it in modern form. So people out there that don't believe it will at least like the story. The last section I want to get into is called Jung's psychology. Now, the closest center is in Chicago, Illinois. I trained there for 2 years. You can train to be an analyst, or I trained to be a teacher. I don't analyze people. So, they want you to have your master's or doctorate's degree now, and that's why they list you as a union analyst. You're not certified in an educational course like an MBA or a PhD. You're certified in understanding the works of Carl Jung. They used to offer cool classes all over the Midwest world, actually. We had a group in Fort Wayne for 31 years. The starter of it died. 2 people took it. They got in a fight. It's been disbanded. I was so angry with that. But we studied Jungian psychology and everything we're talking, symbols, colors, herbs. Jung had a background. Now the joke really is, in the picture of Carl Jung sitting in his office is all alchemy books sitting behind him. He had enough money through his wife, who was extremely wealthy, and said to the library or the bookseller, go around the world, and when you pick up an alchemy book, send it to me. Carl Jung studies alchemy from a psychological, sporadic standpoint and has written books on alchemy. He's got 18 black books. They read like sawdust because they're almost medical books. I've read half of them. But here's the point. Carl Jung could sit in this room today, be a very cold, analytical Swiss analyst, and understand everything that I'm talking about, that Redney's talking about. And remember this, winding down. Before he died, they interviewed him for the BBC and black and white television. I've stated this before. And the young man, being smart, said to him, do you believe in God? And he sat back in his chair, stared at the young man. He said, believe in God? He said, I know. And that's all he said. I know. If you keep your studies up, ladies and gentlemen, and live your life with an open mind and heart, somewhere along the line, you're going to know what the force of the universe is. In Masonry, we call it divine providence. That's fine. Other religions or faiths or yoga practices have other names. One of the yoga practices I believe in for the intellectuals out there that are not jocks is called Kriya Yoga. I studied that for 6 years. I got to level 3. There are 6 levels. It comes out of Farmington, Florida, in the United States. In Ganges, Michigan, a little one-stoplight town north of here on the beautiful Lake Michigan, is a Kriya Yoga monastery. It's the smallest in the chain. I stayed there for Jung psychology studies. That's where I met the gray cat that appeared in my bathroom. I told you that. And he was there. So funny things can happen. Strange things can happen. But it's very interesting. So radio listeners, getting back to you and winding up today, Rodney and I are going to try to present you with fascinating, interesting things instead of us just yakking. Show you alternatives, show you variants of what's out there and how it's to be done. Rodney?
Right, because this is connected to the ancient mysteries. A lot of what we're speaking about was heavily believed in with ancient times, especially with spiritual concepts, healing practices, metaphysics. A lot of these ancient cultures were heavily involved in such. And a lot of people don't realize that there are underground folks like ourselves that still practice those same ideas.
We still practice this. And no matter what we come out of, whether we're Masonic brothers, which we are, whether we practice alchemy. And don't forget, one of the biggest groups behind all of this, it's still out there. I've talked to a couple of the head members of it years ago. It's called the White Brotherhood. Now, they use the Brotherhood loosely, both men and women.
And
they do not have seminars.
Amongst other groups, like the old occultist Aleister Crowley.
Yeah.
He mentioned the White Brotherhood quite a bit.
And the other gentleman is Evola, E-V-O-L-A. I mentioned that. He was a professor out of Italy. He has 6 books translated. If you like the Holy Grail, grab it. It's very good. He was in esoteric groups that we still know little about today. He mentioned them, but he wouldn't talk about them because he was told not to. But
I think I've even come across the mention of the White Brotherhood within the Native American
yes.
groups out there.
Now remember, in the old days, they couldn't get in a car or boat and come here.
Right.
They astro projected. Now, we have some people working on this at Grable called the 5th dimension. Okay. In the Catholic Church, Padre Pio was a priest, Italian priest, that had the stigmata on his hands. He would say Mass. They've got this recorded, modern times. And at the same time, he would astral project to a hospital in London and work with a woman that wrote him a letter having cancer. Okay. We have Father Solanus Casey that could produce food for poor people without food being in the room. He's up for sainthood. He was down here at the Huntington Priory in Indiana. If you ever get to make it to Indiana, go to Huntington, Indiana. The Priory has totally been rebuilt. It's small. They do tours there.
I'm going to have to visit there. My parents live in Huntington right now.
I will take you there, and we will have a good time. 3rd Saturday of the month, they have Mass at 1 o'clock. A lot of people need healing. Go. You don't have to be Catholic. Go and enjoy the service. Afterwards, you get something to eat again.
And if we go, maybe after we can even maybe knock on the door of the old historic Masonic temple that is now just someone's personal house. Maybe they could give us a tour.
Yeah, you could. And remember, our Vice President, Dan Quayle, I met him when he was a blue-eyed kid. Very, very nice. Before Washington chewed him up. I hate to say that. We have the only vice presidential museum in the world in Huntington, Indiana. And by the way, most of the vice presidents come from the Midwest. It shows where they're all from, and it's almost a straight line north to the south. If our new vice president, the ex-governor of Indiana, would happen to make it to the presidency, that would be a wild move. It could happen. The Lady of Fortune is a strange creature. Around and around the wheel goes, and where she stops, nobody knows. Rodney?
Well, that's a good way to end the episode. It's been a pleasure speaking with you again, Chuck.
It's great to be here, Rodney.
We're on a great journey with this new series, which we will start next Sunday. We'll record it.
Next Theater week, After Midnight,
Theater
Nexus
After Midnight,
Productions.
Episode 1, which will be about
South Wayne, Indiana, and the Templars.
It's an exciting tale to be told, and I can't wait to have you listeners check it out. I'm your host, Rodney McGilvery, and with me, and who
Chuck
will
Lauer.
also be with me for a little while, Chuck Lauer, brother of mine. This is Ancient Mysteries Revisited, coming to you every Mondays and Wednesdays at 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Welts 95.7 FM in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and streaming live at www.weltfm.com. And we are the Deprogramming Program.